The LA Times reports now protesters are chanting down, down, down with the military and calling for the execution of officials. But are they giving you any perspective and telling you what this means? You think the Brotherhood-led military police are going to back down? They got God on their side. Hillary Clinton celebrated Gaddafi's death. Celebrated. Watch.
We came, we saw, he died. Did it have anything to do with...
We came, we saw, he died. Do you remember what it was like, his last minutes? This guy was a monster. I've never ever felt bad for a monster before. This guy was taken and dragged in the streets. Do we believe in a fair trial anymore? Do we just drag people out in the streets, mob style, and just beat them to death and kill them? Look how this man was killed. Is this something you celebrate? Hillary Clinton saw this video. You laugh about it? My gosh, what have we turned into? Have things gotten better or worse since? Well, let's go to Libya, because of course we had to go help the Libyans. Of course. Let's go help the Libyans. How did that happen? How'd that work out, huh? How much treasure, how much blood? Radical Islamists are now on the rise in Libya. Libya's interim president said the Libyan laws in the future will use Sharia as the source of all legislation. That's good. The Telegraph reported there is a real possibility that Libya will redescend into civil strife. There are regular gunfights now between militias who are jockeying for power. Libya's attorney general was dragged from his car at gunpoint and forced to release prisoners. The Islamists are much more disorganized than they are in Egypt, but they are just as determined. And chaos and violence is continuing. In Syria, why should the world worry about Syria? I mean, that's no big deal. Syria? What? By the way, this little speck right here, right there, is Israel. That's Israel. That's Israel. And if they just give up a little bit more land, all of this will be fine. 5,400 protesters are dead since last year. Give you some perspective, that is more than the coalition forces killed in Iraq. Since 2003, 4,802, I believe, is the number. Wow. Wow, 4,802. And that, of course, is the greatest humanitarian crisis of all time. That, we got to put that number up on the TV screen every single night until we switch presidents, and then we don't care anymore. Or until extremists, until brutal dictators just start slaughtering their own people. Then we don't care so much. Do they have any oil? The UN says hundreds of children have been killed in the uprising, but we don't care. Oh, I mean, we're going to go to the UN and then we'll do nothing. Here's a tragic story from just the other day. 5 children killed in the shelling attack by Assad's men. The United States is pressuring the UN to make a resolution against Syria. Don't we have a responsibility to protect? No, not here. Not here for some reason. I don't know why. China and Russia are standing behind Syria, as they have now with Iran. They claim the resolution is a path towards civil war. Oh, really? Syria's president says he's not standing down and vows to fight the terrorists with an iron fist, and chaos and violence will continue. Who's on the right side? The terrorist or the brutal dictator? Neither. But we sure were quick to open up the party hats and the cans of whoop ass. Yemen. Oh, things are going well in Yemen. I mean, if you're an Islamic extremist, things are going well there. That's good. By the way, all of your oil, it's got to come through here. But that's it. No big deal. Elections are scheduled for this month, February 21st, but the election committee offices have been attacked by gunmen protesting the coming elections. Al-Qaeda-linked militants have seized territory. The president and information minister, boy, I hope we get one of those soon, have survived multiple assassination attempts. Al Jazeera says the Yemen uprisings are made up of various insurrection groups that, quote, bring together, among others, socialists and Islamists. Well, gee, are they conspiracy theorists? Because radicals, Islamists, and communists and socialists will work together. Wait a minute, this one comes from Al Jazeera, so maybe the White House is listening this time, because we all know that you can trust the Almighty. Praise be upon Al Jazeera. They've said this now. But gee, nobody's talking about that. Aren't they all watching Al Jazeera? Isn't this important that socialists and Islamists are working together? Just some of the groups. Muslim Brotherhood, their goal, ultimately, Caliphate. Then you have the Salafists, radical Islamists, ultimate goal, Caliphate. Then you have the Socialist Party and the Unionist Party and the Popular Forces Union Party. Oh, that sounds great. Then you also have Abdul Majid al-Zindani. Glad I don't live in that part of the country. I can barely do American names. He's a leading figure in the movement. Leading figure in this movement. Okay? But CNN is identifying him today as, quote, a provocative cleric with a flaming red beard. Oh. You might remember him, the rest of the world knows him, as the leading militant Islamist with the Muslim Brotherhood, who was designated a global terrorist by the United States because of his long history of working with Osama bin Laden. But I rather think of him as a provocative cleric with a flaming red beard. Incompetence, irresponsible, or dangerous? Think of what the media told you a year ago. This was glorious. This was democratic. This was peaceful. This was definitely not about the Caliphate. This was definitely not about anybody being dangerous. This isn't it. Every single one of the countries that have fallen are being influenced by Islamists who want to reestablish the Caliphate. Not my words, their words. Where the power is undecided, the Islamists are violently fighting for it. So who are you rooting for? The dictator? Radical Islam is on the rise all over the Middle East, and it is beginning to sweep the world, and that should scare the crap out of people. But apparently not the media, and definitely not Barack Obama, who called these uprisings, quote, the beginning of a new era of promise. Oh, yes. Be careful what you wish for. That promise is about to come true, and I believe this president knows exactly what I mean. He knew in advance. That's not how I would describe the rapid ascent into radical Islam, but I believe he does. The Washington Times says today, quote, Obama is an Islamist firster, meaning he puts Islam before everything else. That's not that he wasn't born here or that he is an Islamic himself. He just seems to have different goals than most Americans. Here's the truth. Those who seek the Caliphate are dominating now the Middle East. They are joined by socialists and communists and other radicals, at least while they have a common goal. But now that the Islamic radicals have control of Egypt, now they're doing the other part of this prediction that I gave to you later. I warned, you're going to end up dead. Because those Islamic radicals, to achieve their end goal, the Caliphate, can no longer use you socialists, you Western people. That's why in Egypt, we told you earlier this week in a story you probably haven't heard anywhere else, they're holding them. Americans. One of them is the son of an American administration official. Boy, you'd think that was a big story, wouldn't you? No, it can't really be a big story, or you have to explain that one to the American people. Now let's go into the next phase of the prediction, and that is protests become contagious. They cascade, they sweep the Middle East, we're there, and begin to stabilize Europe and the rest of the world. Well, let me give you two stories out just today. I mean, this has been an incredible few days for our predictions. Add two more to the 12 that we've had in the last week. Two more. This one. 4 UK jihadists plead guilty over economic terror plot was the headline today. What was that? Well, they were just going to try to collapse Europe and the Western way of life. Then there's this one. Iran is launching a Spanish-language satellite TV channel. I mean, I always watch the Iranian movies. They're always so good. I just haven't been able to get them in Spanish yet. What do you think that's all about? They say it will deal a blow to dominance seekers. By the way, that would be you. This is the latest effort from Mahmoud Ahmadinejad to reach out to friendly governments in Latin America. He's already doing it over here. He's already doing it with Cuba, Venezuela, friendly forces in Mexico. It's happening. Spreading the hatred of the West. And boy, there are forces in Latin America that love to hate the West. We will address this and the spread of the Caliphate with three incredible guests that have been ringing the alarm bells alongside of me and probably long before me for years. You need to hear what they are going to share with you. You will not hear it in the mainstream media. We do that next.
What God are we really worshiping? It's not about jobs, cars, or houses, and it's certainly not Abraham. When Occupy Wall Street activists did this to a police car, when they urinated on the holiest site in our churches, and when they keep out minorities and engage in violent acts, they revealed themselves to a small number of people who are spiritually attuned and know the history of the most evil of ancient gods. The god of weather, the god of economy, and the god of war, who we are really fighting. Tomorrow at 5 p.m., only on GBTV.
I mean, this week, that's a show you wouldn't have gotten on Fox. I urge you, if you are at all, if you have any spiritual eyes at all, please watch tomorrow's show and wake up your friends, have them watch the show. Tomorrow is an important show. I said to Rabbi Lapin something on this show when I was in New York, and you should have seen him. He didn't know what to say until we got off the air and we got into my car and we drove together and we parked for a while and we sat in my car and we just talked. And he said, "Glenn, I cannot believe you said that." He said, "I have felt that way for 2 years. I felt in prayer that I was supposed to research that very thing, but then I was told to hold it. That's why I didn't say anything on the air today." He said, "You're not only right, you don't know how right that is." I said, "Would you say those things on the air? Would you explain what it means?" He said, "I don't know. I'll have to pray on it." He wrote to me 2 days later and said, "Yes, I will. And I'll bring all the information and I'll say it all." Tomorrow, a very brave man sharing something on a very brave show. Don't miss it. Please tell a friend. Tax Resolution Services is our underwriter this half hour, and I want you to log on to taxresolution.com. If you're $20,000 or more behind in taxes, if you have unfiled returns, or if you're under audit, you can't fight these guys alone. And believe me, I am the king of procrastination. When it comes to real problems that I can't figure out a way to get out of, one of the things that I used to do all the time was procrastinating, just like, it'll just go away. It's not going to. You're going to have to own up to it at some point, because they're coming for their money. You need somebody, these are the pioneers in this, you need somebody to stand with you and say, no, here's what we're going to do. And they can get you a breakup to 85% off the original amount owed, the taxes, the penalty, the interest, if you qualify. Also, they can keep your doors of your business from being padlocked, and if your wages have been garnished, they can lift that garnishment usually in 24 to 48 hours. Log on to taxresolution.com. Do it right now, 888-780-4TAX, taxresolution.com.